okay, I did it. I did my job. I made a smart people video. The video on simulation theory is out now. And now, as a treat, I get to talk about one of my hyper obsessions, history. Y'all better be careful, or else this is going to become a history channel. History is full of iconic names and families. The Romanovs, Cleopatra, Henry Ford. We all know about these people, and honestly, I find them kind of boring. Like, so what? You were born rich? Big deal. I guess one of you invented the automobile. That was a pretty big deal. What fascinates me are the invisible people, the people whose lives at the time seemed so insignificant that their day-to-day lives were never recorded, despite being the support beams of civilization. Their names totally forgotten to history, and is just tragic. So here are my top 5 unknown and unsung heroes of history. Cooks. And I don't mean chefs. I do mean cooks. The people who prepared food day in, day out, in homes and taverns and campsites and anywhere else people needed to eat. Louis Pasteur didn't discover germ theory until the 1860s, so before then, and actually quite a bit after, people were very vulnerable to foodborne illnesses. Case of bad diarrhea could literally kill you if you got too dehydrated, meaning that you could be the brawniest Viking or the fiercest samurai. You could still crap your pants to death if someone didn't cook your food correctly. In the American Civil War, both sides had more soldiers die from dysentery than battle wounds. Imagine the smell. And the vast majority of cooks didn't go to school. You were just taught by those around you, and there was no way to measure how hot or how cold something was. You had to go by the feel and experience. You had to know how to safely cook, store, and preserve food before the science of it had even been discovered. And that takes skill, skill that has been repeatedly taken for granted. Metalworkers. I love a good Arthurian legend. Knights of the Round Table and all that, meeting some evil foe fully clad in mail. And there were many types of mail. Plate mail, chain mail, godly plate of the whale, many types. And they were all made by metalworkers. You can find videos online of what the process would have been like during the Iron Age, all the way up to the 17th century when guns and firearms began to the process of making them obsolete. The process, from start to finish, is excruciating. The time, the effort, the sheer strength required to do it day in and day out, and not to mention the heat. You still had to work a forge in summer, and just like with cooks, there was no way to measure the heat precisely. You just had to get a feel for what 3,000 degrees kind of looks and feels like. Just an incredible amount of time, energy, and skill to be a footnote in history. Cats. This one is weird, but stick with me here. In the Middle Ages, people were very not cool about witchcraft, and cats were strongly associated with witches and the dark arts, which led to a lot of communities exterminating cats, since that's so sad. Poor kitties didn't do nothing. Well, it's actually not true. They did do something. They killed rats, mice, voles, assorted varmints, whose fleas carried all sorts of fun diseases, like plague. And there is a theory that the practice of paranoid cat killing may have brought on the Black Death, or at the very least, sped it up considerably. Yes, bubonic plague, which wiped out around a third of Europe's population, a cool 50 million. Evidence of the bubonic plague has been traced back to Kyrgyzstan and China, and may have come over with trade routes through the steppe. But the thing is, the Chinese didn't believe in witches. They had no mythology around it. You know what they did have, though? Cats. Also, do you know how important it is for human civilization that cats bury their poop? Cats have been with us since the beginning of the agricultural age, not just as fluffy companions, but as a vital source of pest control. Rats, mice, assorted varmints could get into your food stores and your granaries, and yes, they could get into your garden and eat things, but they could also poop everywhere and contaminate your crops. So here you have this perfect killing machine that also has the decency to bury its poop. What a marvelous creature. The aesthetic, the utility. Cats deserve a place of reverence in history. The laundress. No one can really prepare you for the unbelievable difficulty of washing clothes properly before washing machines. I learned this recently when I didn't have one. I think there's a misconception that throughout history, people just didn't wash their clothes and therefore were just smelly and dirty all the time. And maybe they got kind of clean if they fell in a river or something. But nothing could be further from the truth. The washerwoman was an integral part of any community. People were expected to have relatively clean clothes, maybe not day to day, but definitely when you went to church. And that included your clothes not smelling bad. Washing clothes was a full time job. Women made their careers out of washing people's clothes because it was so labor intensive. And not just that, it also required some scientific understanding as well. Like you had to know how to make your own ammonia, you had to know how to get out different types of stains with different methods without bleach and on only very rudimentary versions of soap. But most importantly, the laundress, similar to the cook, was vital to keeping people healthy. In the Middle Ages, up to the 20th century, people were in close contact with livestock. And if you weren't, you probably rode a horse, and this close proximity to animals came with the risk of fleas, lice, and ticks. And they would have been made of things that were quite thick, like wool and cotton. And when dirt and grime build up on those types of fabrics, they can attract insects and even begin to mold. Fleas, ticks, insects, and mold are all vectors of disease for humans, and I can't stress this enough. You could have been the strongest strongman, and you still could have died a horrible death if your clothes weren't washed thoroughly and often. Well, here comes Agnes, the old drudge, here to do the laundry and quietly keep our society from total collapse. Oh, Agnes. She deserved better. Agnes deserved a statue. And my top pick for Unsung Heroes of History is the scullery maid. In the Victorian era, there was a room at the back of the house called a scullery. It was for washing dishes and other household work. And these manor houses had strict hierarchies for staff, with the scullery maid at the very bottom. What did she do? What didn't she do? These were often young girls as young as 11 years old who live. I think I would actually go back in time and live at a different time in history. Yeah, and I would risk cholera and dismemberment if it meant I didn't have to get interrupted all the time by leaf blowers. Just use a rake, please. I'm begging you. While I am sitting here waiting for this leaf blower to return me to my solitude and peace, I would like to take a moment to thank everyone who supports this channel over on patreon.com. I am a single mom and I do live in low income housing, so you are all the reason that this channel exists. Thank you so much. For everybody who subscribed to this channel, gave me $1 a month, that would basically change my life, which would be kind of crazy. So if you like these videos and you want to see this continue, please head over there and donate $1 a month. It would be great. All right, back to the video. These were usually young girls, some as young as 11 years old, who lived where they worked full time, 7 days a week, with a half day off on Sunday for church. They were responsible for some of the most physically demanding household duties that were considered beneath other staff. They lit and cleaned out fireplaces, scrubbed floors, washed dishes, emptied chamber pots, washed laundry, and prepared food. Often all in the same day, starting before dawn and ending only after the last people in the house went to bed. And when they went to bed, they often had to share a bed with another servant. Kind of sounds like being a modern day mom, which should be funny and somehow isn't. Because a scullery maid had such a variety of responsibilities, there were many chances for her to mess up in ways that could be lethal. She could undercook food. She could not boil water to the right temperature. What if she didn't wash her hands between emptying the chamber pots and serving lunch? And yet, here we are. At some point in history, my ancestors survived because a scullery maid, a little girl, worked her butt off. I am taking a Eurocentric view here, yes, but this could be applied to just about any civilization. Every single person alive today exists because of the people who cooked their food, made their armor, and kept them clean. And cats, or cat-adjacent mammals. The point is, these are the real heroes of history, in my view, and they deserve more recognition for their contributions to civilization. So everyone in the comments, make sure to thank someone.